I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like the river, been running ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know, yes, actually I know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Yes, it will. I go to the movies. Yes, I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, hey, you don't hang around here, y'all. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, please help me, please help me, please. But he winds up knocking me back down to my knees. Lord, there's been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. Yes, I do. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday worship at Eastern Mennonite Seminary. Whether you are here in Martin Chapel or joining us virtually, we are so glad you are here. Earlier this week, communities across the country, including the community here at EMU, paused to honor the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His vision of beloved community continues to challenge us, especially in its insistence that justice takes time, courage, and sustained commitment. It is not work that comes easily, and it cannot be rushed or given mere lip service. That conviction shapes our chapel service today. Grounded in Isaiah 58, will be invited to reflect on what faithful community looks like when it moves beyond intention and into practice, when it asks something real of us. As we begin our worship, I invite you to go into the space with an open and honest heart, trusting that God meets us not only in our hopes, but also in the long work that we are called to do together. So please join me in our call to worship, which is based on Psalm number 112, verses 4 to 9. I will read the one and invite you to join me in the green print, the all. Light shines in bleak places for those who live with integrity, for those who are gracious and just. We come seeking that light. Those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice, will not be shaken. Teach us how to live this way. They do not fear hard news. Their hearts are firm, trusting in God. Root us where fear cannot undo us. They share freely with the poor. Their decency endures. Their dignity stands firm. Call us into the long work of justice and love. Grace and peace be with you, dear friends, beloved of God, as we worship today.
Maybe stand for the hymn that can be found in your books, VT 790. And let this be a testimony of the faith community and our stance to God and our community. How can we be silent when we know our God is near, bringing light to those in shadows, to the worthless, endless world? How can we be silent when we are the voice of Christ, speaking justice to the nations, bringing love to all the earth? None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. How can we be silent when our God has conquered death, stretching out his arms to suffer so that we might have new life? How can we be silent when we know that Jesus rose and will come again in glory, ending suffering and strife? None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. How can we be silent as we turn our eyes away and ignore the poor and broken who lie bleeding in the street? How can we be silent when we're called to heal and serve in the image of Lord Jesus, who has stooped to wash our feet? None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. How can we be silent, not give praise with all our hearts? For Christ Jesus is our Savior, and compassion is our King. How can we be silent when God gave us life to be? From instruments of worship, made to laugh and dance and sing. None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. How can we be silent when our souls are filled with awe at the beauty of creation, the mercy of the Lord? How can we be silent when we yearn to sing new songs? In our hearts, fire is burning, and it will not be ignored. None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. Let's sing this one more time. None can stop the Spirit. None can stop the Spirit burning now inside us. We will shape the future. We will not be silent. You may be seated.
Our reading this morning comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 1 to 8. I will read in English, then later read in Swahili. Shout loudly, do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their crime. To the house of Jacob their sins. They seek me day after day, desiring knowledge of my ways, like a nation that acted righteously, that did not abandon their God. They ask me for righteous judgments, wanting to be close to God. Why do we fast and you don't see? Why afflict ourselves and you do not notice? Yet on your fast day, you do whatever you want and oppress all your workers. You quarrel, you brawl, and then you fast. You hit each other violently with your fists. You shouldn't fast as you're doing today if you want to make your voice heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I choose, a day of self-affliction, of bending one's head like a reed, and of lying down in mourning, clothing, and in ashes? Is this what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Isn't this the fast I choose, releasing wicked restraints, untying the ropes of yoke, setting free the mistreated, and breaking every yoke? Isn't it sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your house, covering the naked when you see them, and not hiding from your own family? Then your light will break out like the dawn, and you'll be healed quickly. Your own righteousness will walk before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard. I will now read in Swahili. Swahili is a language spoken across East and Central Africa by over 100 million people. It's an easy language, but I should just mention, we don't say jambo. That's for the movies and tourism. Isaiah, fungu la 58 kutoka Mwanzo mpaka 8. Mwenyezi Mungu asema, piga kelele, wala usijizuie. Paza sauti yako kama tarubeta. Watangazie watu wangu makosa yao. Waambie wazawa wa Yakobo dhambi zao. Siku hata siku wananijia kuniabudu. Wanatamani kujua mwongozo wangu, kana kwamba wao ni taifa litendalo haki, taifa lisilosahau sheria za Mungu wao. Wananitaka niamue kwa haki na kutamani kukaa karibu na Mungu. Nyinyi mnaniuliza, mbona tunafunga lakini wewe hauoni? Mbona tunajinyenyekea lakini wewe haujali? Ukweli ni kwamba wakati mnapofunga, mnatafuta furaha yenu wenyewe na kuwakandamiza wafanyikazi wenu. Mnafunga na kugombana na kupigana ngumi. Mkifunga namna hiyo, maombi yenu hayatafika kwangu juu. Mfungapo nyinyi, mnajitaabisha, mnavinamisha vichwa vyenu kama unyasi, na kulalia nguo za magunia na majivu. Je, huo ndio mnauita mfungo? Je, hiyo ni siku inayokubaliwa nami? La, mfungo ninaotaka mimi ni huu: kuwafungulia waliofungwa bila haki, kuziondoa kamba za utumwa, kuwaachia huru wanaokandamizwa na kuvunjilia mbali udhalimu wote. Mfungo wa kweli ni wa kuwagawia wenye njaa chakula chako, kuwakaribisha nyumbani kwako maskini wasio na makao, kuwavalisha wasio na nguo, bila kusahau kuwasaidia jamii zenu. Mkifanya hivyo, mtang'ara kama pambazuko. Mkiwa wagonjwa, mtapona haraka. Matendo yenu mema yatawatangulia, nami nitawalindeni kutoka nyuma kwa utukufu wangu. Praise be to God.
It is my honor to introduce our speaker for today, who is well known to most of us. Dr. David Evans is Professor of History and Intercultural Studies and Associate Dean here at Eastern Mennonite Seminary. Dr. Evans is a scholar and speaks on issues of anti-racism, Black freedom, and coalition building. And he brings those commitments into his teaching and public witness. He is also the author of a new book, Damned Whiteness: How White Christian Allies Failed the Black Freedom Movement. We are grateful to receive his message today, titled No Shortcuts in the Path to Beloved Community. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Evans.
Good morning. It's good to see you all and to be together on campus and online. The beginning of a new semester, to see everyone's faces, or to imagine some people's faces that maybe I can't see as you're online, but I trust that you are well, and we welcome you into this space. We come together at a strange time for some of us, and for many of us, the kind of tumultuous, chaotic turmoil that some of us are experiencing and fretting about feels very familiar. It's not so new. And so whether you are coming this morning with your mind on what feels like a new level of anxiety and stress, or some of those issues feel quite familiar, I think it's good that we come together during these times to remind us that we are not alone, but also to come together to think about what we can do together that we cannot do on our own. And in that spirit today, I want to ask us to consider what our ancestors or forebears have done when faced with times like these, and what we might learn from them. In 1942, an interracial group of 24 Black and white activists led by James Farmer, the founder of the Congress of Racial Equality, attempted to enter White City Roller Rink. Now, I brought a picture because I wasn't sure that you would believe me that this place was called White City. I can't make these things up. White City was established as an amusement park in Chicago in 1905. One of its great attractions was reenacting the Great Fire of the Chicago World's Fair by setting a few of its buildings on fire from time to time and then putting them out again. We'll return to that. True to its name, White City was a white supremacist institution that barred black people from entrance. By 1942, all but the roller skating rink had closed. So the interracial team of activists attempted to enter the nearly 40-year-old establishment with determination to execute a strategy that would force White City Roller Rink, whose policies, practices, and structures were built to serve white people only, to become something its founders never intended for it to be. A place that Chicagoans of all races would have the option to enter, boycott, or simply ignore. For Farmer and the freedom fighters, the option was the point. The freedom to choose was the point. They were not interested in being included in White City. They wanted to use it to start a revolution. White City was located in the heart of a South Side Chicago neighborhood that was growing with primarily Black residents as a result of the Great Migration. And the new residents were not all that impressed with this place. Not only was White City a dilapidated park that never fully recovered after the Great Depression, its name and policies were a direct affront to the dignity and rights of the neighbors who lived there. White City served as a daily reminder to Black Chicagoans that Chicago and cities like it across the American North and South fell short of the national anthem that declared America to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thus, being included into American neighborhoods and places like White City was inadequate for a people who longed for the freedom to determine their own destiny. James Farmer and his friends wanted a revolution in which Black people had the power to demand service of any establishment in their neighborhood and to challenge any institution that discriminated against them. To this end, he determined to struggle down the long path of resisting evil on his search for beloved community. And he intended to take this resistance strategy from Chicago's White City to every city in the country until the American house was a sufficient home for Black people and people of all races. Public serving institutions like the roller rink were not allowed to discriminate in Chicago, at least legally. They were prohibited, but they did it anyway. On this day, the activists challenged that practice by directly confronting the anti-Black policy. Farmer sent a group of white people first to enter the roller rink, and by doing so, they showed that the White City roller rink was open for business. Then they sent an interracial pair to enter, but an employee denied them admittance, explaining that they required a membership card to enter. When the next group of 4 white co-conspirators gained entrance, they pointed out to the ticket seller that they did not have a membership card, to which the White City employee responded that the cards were only used to keep Black people out. Believing that he had sufficient proof of discrimination, James Farmer took action. Now, Farmer, like many Black freedom fighters, was interested in strategies that would end racial discrimination through nonviolent means. But he believed that nonviolence must be used with civic powers to abolish evils like racial discrimination. He argued, nonviolence and legal action must be twin weapons, either one being used when it seems most applicable, with each bolstering the other. Using this philosophy, Farmer swore out warrants for the arrest of 3 persons at White City roller skating rink: the manager, the ticket seller, and the ticket taker. Then he called an emergency meeting and raised enough cash to post bail for the 3 segregationists. As he put it, the Baileys were astonished. His use of nonviolent actions sought more than to shame and astonish. Most importantly to Farmer, the actions effectively started a journey for White City to transform from an exclusively white institution to become a place where Black neighbors were free to decide for themselves how they would interact with the site. Energized by the action, Farmer and his colleagues left Chicago to attend a National Fellowship of Reconciliation meeting in Columbus, Ohio. And on their way, James Farmer, Homer Jack, Bernice Fisher, and George Hauser discussed how they were, and I quote, giving birth that year to a revolution in race relations with a technique new to America that would change the face of this nation. Now, whether these kinds of interventions were new or not is debatable, but that's how they felt. They were excited. They took this revolutionary action to their colleagues at the Fellowship of Reconciliation, popularly known as FOR, or the FOR, where Farmer was one of few Black members, along with quite famous people, well, at least famous now, like Bayard Rustin, Howard Thurman, and Pauli Murray. He proposed to his colleagues, the blessed community and the family of Christ are rent asunder by the evil practice of apartheid in America, which will not end until the decent and religious people of this land will it so. God willing, segregation will end when the good people withdraw their cooperation from it and stop, wittingly or unwittingly, giving it their support. What I am proposing is that the FOR, because of its thoroughgoing commitment to nonviolence and brotherhood, take the lead in setting up a vehicle through which that non-cooperation with evil can be forged into a national movement. This vehicle of non-cooperation with evil became the founding principle that carried the work of the Congress of Racial Equality for decades to come. James Farmer founded the Congress of Racial Equality out of frustration over the failure of white allies in the FOR to actively deconstruct racial segregation in law and in practice. The white Christian allies with whom he worked at the FOR were more content to talk about racial reconciliation than to do the work necessary to tear down the walls of public policy and institutional racism that empowered white supremacy in America and throughout the world. He, along with other Black freedom fighters, understood that there were no shortcuts to what he called blessed community, that to seek after it, we must do the hard work of resisting evil and taking action to change the structures of society. I believe that we still have lessons to learn from Farmer and other 20th century Black freedom fighters. And while it's tempting to believe that opening wider doors to include more people and setting more chairs around the table of fellowship to welcome diversity will create the communities that we long for, from where I stand, these gestures without structural transformations in policies, practices, cultures, and processes are attempts to take shortcuts around the hard pathway that leads to beloved community. Farmer believed that the Fellowship of Reconciliation was prepared to trod the stony road of non-cooperation, of the non-cooperation movement, because of its mission, quote, to end enmity between people, one another, and to end the enmity between humans and God. Along with war, the group had identified racial segregation as issues for their fellowship to address. But there was a problem. The white allies in the Fellowship of Reconciliation were non-resistant pacifists, who, though they favored socialism, many of the members opposed strikes and other methods because they interpreted their coercive character as violence. Institutions like White City that were out of compliance with the law but continued to operate out of their founding principle of being for white people only relied upon the non-resistance of people, for they had no intention of changing their ways without being compelled to do so under penalty of law. So the roller rink fought the Congress of Racial Equality's non-cooperation action, and after a few months delivered the freedom fighters a loss. White City was not mandated to change its policies. Determined to struggle, the Congress of Racial Equality persisted. Small numbers of folks gathered in protest. They carried picket signs that read, "American Constitution violated by White City," and "Race discrimination breeds fascism," and "White City defies the Bill of Rights." For 4 more years, the Corps battled with White City, whose owner tried to get an injunction against the protesters on the grounds that they were bad for business. White City claimed that it had lost 50% of its customers due to the protests. And furthermore, the owners devised a plan to argue before the courts that as a private business, they had a right to only serve members. But some folks told on them. Some white patrons testified that they had gained entrance without memberships. In reality, White City never intended to serve Black people, and therefore it was inadequately prepared to include Black people in any of its activities. And in truth, no structure built to serve only white people is adequately prepared to accommodate anyone else. And the demand to make it so, like setting a house on fire, threatens to take the entire structure down. Years later, in 1962, faced with an America on fire over desegregation mandates, James Baldwin asked, "Do I really want to be integrated into a burning house?" The question reflected legitimate concerns that African Americans had about the meaning of racial integration. Even 8 years after the US Supreme Court declared racial segregation unconstitutional and then mandated desegregating the public school system, 1962 was also the year that James Meredith, a 29-year-old Army veteran, entered the University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss, as the first Black student to be admitted to the white institution. If it appeared that integrating Black people into the nation's public schools from K through 12 to higher education brought the US instantly or quickly closer to what Martin Luther King described as the beloved community, resistance to integration, as history has shown in the election of people like George Wallace as governor of Alabama, called that fast track into serious question. If you're not familiar with George Wallace, I'll just give you a little insight into this character, who declared in his inaugural address, "Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." Right? This is after the Brown versus Board of Education decision. It was a declaration that spoke loudly for massive resistors of Black freedom. Massive resistance was a movement that began right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it spread throughout the South. And it was more than a declaration, it was a Southern strategy to sustain white supremacist laws and policies that guaranteed elite white men control over public institutions and private property. And the strategies varied, from closing public schools and opening private Christian ones, to white citizen council rallies that blocked black children's entrance to schools, even kindergartners, as many of us are aware. The strategies grew to embrace violent bombings of churches and homes, as well as drive-by shootings of pro-integration spaces. Massive resistance created conditions that set regions of the American homeland on fire. The American empire was crashing in on itself, an outcome that many anti-imperialists have predicted for years, that empires, being parasitic consumers of labor and resources of others and dividers of people, always crash and burn. I think this is what Baldwin meant when he asked, "Do I really want to be integrated into a burning house?" In the aftermath of the mandate to desegregate public life in America, white protesters burned hot with anti-black racism. Black freedom fighters responded with uprisings that demonstrated their resonance with Baldwin's question, do we want to be integrated into a burning house? It's helpful probably to remember here too that Martin Luther King was not he was popular and well known, but was not well liked. Jesse Jackson said when he died the most hated man in America. Martin Luther King adopted the metaphor of the house a few years later in his Nobel Peace Prize speech, and then expanded upon it in his World House speech, where he described the beloved community as a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation, and is in reality a call for an all-embracing and unconditional love for all people. And this is a vision that resonates with the greatest ideals of humankind, from the culmination of visions of sacred texts to even humanist and materialist visions of a society where each could give according to their ability and receive according to their needs. Eastern Mennonite Seminary has committed itself to the vision of the beloved community. As we state in our mission, Eastern Mennonite Seminary nurtures agents of justice and peace by opening spaces for theological learning and practice rooted in Jesus' radical ministry, a beloved community. And I like the very next sentence. I feel like it's a key confession. We are seeking beloved community. In other words, we recognize we haven't arrived. We are seeking. At Eastern Mennonite Seminary, I think we understand something about beloved community that Farmer, Baldwin, and King understood too. That rather than being something we simply declare, beloved community is something we seek after through sustained practices, reflection, and accountability. And this is because beloved community is more than a picture of diverse faces portrayed on postcards and web page designs, and it is more than a statement that we are inclusive. Just as we might be skeptical of the capability of the white cities of the world to truly include a diverse community, we must always be mindful of the environment that diverse experiences and identities are being invited into. At a time when Black people engaged in revolutionary actions to gain equality, Martin Luther King cautioned, equality with whites will not solve the problem of either whites or Negroes if it means equality in a world society stricken by poverty and in a universe doomed to extinction by war. In other words, if equality with white people means that the black and brown people of the world capitulate to capitalist materialism that relies on a few wealthy white people consuming most of the world's resources at the expense of the many whose labor is exploited and whose needs are neglected, or if inclusion means the Black and brown majority of the world surrender to the powers of dominating militarism that are motivated by a never-ending lust for natural resources that will ultimately destroy the planet and everything on it, then we are being included or integrated into a burning house. And I don't think we want to be integrated into a burning house, which is why we seek beloved community. But what are the qualities of this beloved community? If we aren't careful about what we're including people into, then how will we distinguish beloved community from a burning house? King described beloved community using the imagery of the World House as ecumenical, international, and marked by love. And I think that's what we're seeking after here. He says, it's a large house in which we live demands that we transform this worldwide neighborhood into a worldwide kinship. Together we must learn to live as family, or together we will be forced to perish as fools. It's MLK week, and soon to be Black History Month, when we will no doubt be inundated with quotes from Martin Luther King like, "I have a dream," which liberal and progressive white allies will use to emphasize the promised land of diversity and inclusion. A lot of this talk will claim to take its cues from this famous speech, especially when he said, "I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood." But rather than remind us of the rocky road that we will have to march to get to that one day, many white allies will skip over the struggle to encourage us to sit down together at the table. They'll preach unity and extend invitations to come together rather than creating blueprints and building economic equality and strategies for legal protections that might make sitting together at the table a possibility. And this isn't a new thing. Today's white allies inherit a legacy that has too often misunderstood Black freedom dreams and cheapened them into visions that have the veneer of love, holding to an outward form of beloved community while not seeking after it in earnest. The assumption behind these kind of shallow calls for inclusivity is that the predominantly white institutions into which people of color are invited are built upon the political and theological values that Black, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Island, and Latinx folks should aspire to. But in reality, white liberal and progressive promised lands of racial inclusion demonstrate their value for friendship rather than freedom, demanding that we all get along, focusing on what we have in common, and thereby fail to recognize the significant institutional policies and cultural processes that hinder the self-determination of Black and brown communities. As such, they do little to address structural problems that were responsible for the exclusion of marginalized peoples in the first place. Thus, inclusion efforts can undermine the prerequisite work necessary to make inclusion something more than another name for assimilation and tokenism. Inclusion and diversity in these contexts are inadequate for building beloved community because they take for granted the goodness of the structures allies invite racially marginalized groups to belong. This is why King criticized white liberals and moderates for their failure to join Black freedom fighters in mass demonstrations on the streets and named them a great stumbling block. Still, as Eastern Mennonite Seminary seeks beloved community, we have an invitation. And yes, we want you to be included in it. But it's not an invitation that sees inclusion as the goal. No, beloved community is what we seek. And now we understand that it will take a long time to get there. And Eastern Mennonite Seminary believes that the methods we use to get there are just as important as the steadfast determination and struggle the pathway requires. It will take determination to seek beloved community marked by intellectual non-coercion, where we welcome disagreement and vigorous debate. It will take determination to celebrate diverse cultures and experiences when so many of us have been taught to find strength only where we share common ground. And so, Eastern Mennonite Seminary is determined to struggle against the powers of domination and to struggle for the structures and institutions that can empower us to practice building peace and justice. Values that move us to fight for freedom and solidarity with all creation, because we understand our indebtedness to each other and everything on the planet. Eastern Mennonite Seminary is determined to struggle to cultivate critical hope, because so many need the motivation hope can give them to press on and to believe that it is possible to change the world, even when the white cities of the world refuse to change. The freedom fighters who protested White City were moved by such solidarity and critical hope. For 4 long years, they struggled to transform the South Side of Chicago into a place where they had the freedom to seek beloved community. In 1946, a Chicago court ruled in favor of the protesters that the roller rink was violating city ordinances against discrimination. White City did not become inclusive. It transformed into something new. It no longer made sense to be called White City Roller Rink in the middle of a black neighborhood. And after the struggle they went through, it needed a new name to reflect its new policies and its new patrons, or potential patrons. It became Park City Roller Rink. Now, if you go to Chicago looking for Park City Roller Rink, you won't find it. It no longer exists. 12 years after the legal battle, it burned to the ground in a fire that reminded many of the Chicago fire that it had reenacted when it was White City Amusement Park. A little irony there, perhaps. Perhaps it was a fitting ending for an institution that never shook its White City name. A 1959 newspaper article titled "Fire Destroys White City Roller Rink" led with the line, "The last trace of a once glittering outdoor amusement mecca, White City, was erased by flames Saturday." But the roller rink was no mecca to the black neighbors who watched it burn to the ground, which was why no one was hurt in the fire. It had been closed for months and had been scheduled to be demolished, joining the rubble of the rest of the park. The black neighborhood had made its determination. They didn't want to be integrated into a burning house. They were determined to struggle on the stony road in search of beloved community.
Please sing with me in response to, in this song, the phrase, "We shall not be moved." And we may stand for this. We shall not be moved. We shall not be just like a tree that planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Yes, we shall not be just like a tree that planted by the water. We shall not be moved. union is behind us, we shall not be moved. The union is behind us, we shall not be. Just like a tree that planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We're fighting for our freedom, we shall not be. Oh, we're fighting for our freedom, we shall not be. Just like a tree that planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not. We shall not. We shall not be. Oh, we shall not. We shall not be. Just like a tree that planted by the water, we shall not. Let's sing it one more time. We shall not. We shall not be moved. We shall not. Lost like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved.
You may be seated. Thank you, David, for those words. Civil rights activist Ella Baker taught that real revolution is not just, contrary to what David just shared with us, is not just about struggling against institutions, although that is super important, as we just heard. It also requires a deep philosophical and spiritual shift within us so that we can become more fully human, human as we are intended, human as we were created by God, and recognizing that transforming the world means being willing to transform ourselves. She said with confidence, "Give people light, and they will find the way." So let us pray for the courage to be changed and to become people who bear that light. Join me in this prayer of confession. God of justice and light, we confess that we often long for the outcomes of justice without submitting to the slow, costly work that leads there. We grow impatient with the pace of change, resent the disruptions to our comfort, and hesitate when the path asks more than we plan to give. We name good intentions as if they were faithful lives, and we confuse our words about beloved community with the hard practices that make such a community possible. Loosen what binds us to convenience and control. Teach us to stay present and stand firm, to share what we have and receive what we need. Keep us faithful for the long work and honest about what it asks of us. Amen. And now I invite you to join me in this commitment if these words feel true for you. We commit ourselves to the long work of justice, to love that does not rush, and to community that tells the truth. Amen.
The beloved community, there's challenges in every season, and we definitely live a time of challenges at this point. We need our beloved community to stand up and confess that change is possible and that we can do this together. So I invite you to come and sing this song before we leave. Maybe we stand together. Just as the civil rights movement has locked arms and marched together, we also can lock arms and march together and overcome together. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We walk hand in hand. We walk hand in hand. We walk hand in hand. We walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. 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 We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Let's sing one more time. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday.
May we go determined to struggle together